Stand by. Don't worry, they've already been outside. They're fine. The neighbor dogs. As soon as I sat down. So, good morning. Good morning. This is Justice's Waiting Room. This is a daily live podcast. We discuss news and politics. We are live on YouTube and Twitch. YouTube, say hi to Twitch. Twitch, say hi to YouTube. Hope you all had a great weekend. Shout out to, first things first, shout out to the Indiana University Hoosier football program for going undefeated 13-0, beating Ohio State here in Indy. And being the first seed in the college football playoffs. Like, first time Indiana's ever gone undefeated. And I used to be an IU fan, and I always joke that I was an IU fan until they fired Bobby Knight. Okay. I just went to Purdue. So, only time I don't root for IU is when they're playing Purdue. Okay. And I don't root for IU the same way I root for Purdue or root for Miami's football program, for example, which is also in the college football playoff. Yeah, you go, Indiana. Yeah, first time ever. If it was anyone else, if it was any other school, we'd be talking about them. Just so everybody knows. Okay. Mm. I personally, I fucking love Indiana. Okay. A lot of the people that I care about went to Indiana University. Hmm. I've been to Purdue a couple times. Even went to IUPUI, okay, which is literally Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. So a lot of people don't even know that exists. We call it Ooey Pooey, okay. So not my alma mater, not a program that I know the fight song. Well, yeah, I don't know the fight song to. Couldn't call myself a fan. Delighted viewer of the game of football, enjoyer. Love to see a local team do well, despite them being the biggest in-state rival to my alma mater. And many people are children, and they aren't adults about some shit. And so, despite Indiana being like a rival to Purdue, it's still really cool to see like an in-state and a program in the state of Indiana going undefeated in football. You know, this is a basketball state. So for Notre Dame, which is always a very good football program, and now Indiana, in my eyes, it's in Purdue's corner to make an outstanding hire here and compete with the likes of Notre Dame and IU. Again, Notre Dame just got snubbed out of the college football playoff. Um, and here's how I feel about Notre Dame. If Notre Dame's not 11-1 or better, they're not college football playoff material. Why? Because they're an independent school and they don't have to play a conference championship, so they get to play one less football game a year and still get the reward? Nope. Join a fucking conference. Play in a conference championship, win that shit. Then we could talk. Until then, fuck the Catholics. Okay? Let's talk about the news. Thailand launches airstrikes on Cambodia as Trump's peace agreement hangs in the balance. I just want to point out the man said he stopped like 8 wars. Morning, Kara, Stacy, Debs, Evelyn, Zeke, Bob, Gabby. Morning, everybody. To my beautiful wife, Taylor. But yeah, Donald Trump stopped that war too. Euro Maiden Press. I'm trying to see if this is recent. Okay, this is a follow up from July 25th. Okay, so one of the things that we haven't really had is good visuals of what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. So for those of you that have kind of been scratching your head every time we talk about what's going on because you really don't got a lay of the land, here, this ought to help you right here. This ought to help you visualize what's going on in Ukraine. How about them apples? Okay. Don't worry, I'm gonna give it a look too. Um, I'm not shocked to read right off rip that Russia overextended itself into Ukraine. Remember, the Ukraine is a non-NATO, non-UN country that borders Russia. They are the weakest link. Say it. They're the ones that are supposed to fall the easiest. Russia as a world superpower was expected to just take Ukraine. Their president is a comedian. What the fuck are you talking about? And I read a report this morning that, which is damning, by the way. Russia has lost 1% of its available male military, like military age men. They've given up 1% of those for 1.5% of Ukraine. Is it worth it? Fucking no. Nope. Not at all. So it's like, just like every other fucking conflict ever, a bunch of people are dying for no good goddamn reason. Apparently, it's for rare earth, which is just dirt with metal in it. It's fucking crazy, right? This motherfucker said that shit with a straight face with that pussy hanging off his neck. Trump said he's disappointed because Zelensky reported he hasn't even read the U.S. peace plan. No shit. Probably translated it into Russian. I'm hosting a daily live podcast. Probably not the ideal time to send me a DM, right? Hmm. Did you grow up thinking that there wasn't any crime in Japan? Did you also grow up that way? No, 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 no. Gabby, as a country, Russia as a country, with this conflict with Ukraine, has lost 1% of its military age males. That's fucking insane. Think about how big Russia is in terms of population, and then what's three, what's 1% of that? What's 1% of half? Of, you know what I mean? It's like a fuckload of people. So what is 1% of Russia's military aged male population? A million men. A million men. Yeah. There's something like 300 million people in Russia or something like that. Like 260 maybe. Obviously 1% is 100 million men. But yeah, a million military age males have died. Think about let's talk about in U.S. conflicts in the last 25 years. How many military aged men have died? Americans. Military aged American men have died. 7,500. 5,500 being hostile deaths. Do you see? Do you see how terribly fucking inefficient Russia, terribly inefficient Russia and Vladimir Putin have been? They don't give a fuck about people. If a million fucking American men were dying in conflict, oh, we've been through regime change. Hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I grew up thinking there was no crime in Japan. Russian gets everything, so Donna does not get exposed. Treaty right. But yeah, car thefts and home intrusions are on the rise in Tokyo, in Japan. Um, it's just funny, like funny in the way that like we are more alike than we are different, you know. But yeah, I grew up thinking there wasn't. All right, there's a water leak in the Louvre. So basically, nothing means anything anymore, right? People are breaking into the Louvre and stealing shit and getting away with it. And then there was a water leak in the Louvre, and it's damaged hundreds of works. Great job to the Louvre. Great job, everybody. They should all be fucking fired. Everybody that works for the Louvre should be fucking shit canned. What are we doing? Well, you can tell I'm on one today. So, if you had any doubt about Ukraine's ability to war and also conduct like clandestine ops and spy ops, how, how do you think they're doing so well on the battlefield? And it's because they're eavesdropping on the Kremlin's inner circle? As I've told you before, there are no fucking secrets. There's no secrets left. All the cards are on the table. Three more, at least 8 MEPs elected for UKIP or Brexit Party now have been focus of efforts by jailed Nathan Gill. Given to a colleague, bribed by an alleged Russian asset. According to prosecutors, the police investigation of the affair continues. The Crown Prosecution Service has named Jonathan Bullock, Julia Reed, and Stephen Wolf, saying they followed the script provided to Nathan Gill by Oleg Voloshin when giving interviews to 112 Ukraine, a pro-Russian... 112 Ukraine is a pro-Russian TV channel in March 2019. So, hey, everybody's like, oh my god, Russia infiltrated American politics. Bitch, Russia has infiltrated. Russia and Israel have infiltrated everything. And we got Donald Trump, and he's just a fucking idiot. This is what we like to see. This is what we like to see. I'm immediately reminded of all the language that we read in like the U.S. justice system about not wanting to chill voters, right? It's like you don't want to get some all the way to the voter booth and then them decide not to do shit. United 24 reporting, uh, yo, Russian fighter pilots died when their fucking ejection system malfunctioned with them on the runway. Yeah, parked outside its shelter. Incident occurred at a Russian bomber aviation regiment when the ejection system activated aboard an aircraft parked inside its shelter. Malfunction reportedly triggered an ejection while the jet was on the ground and static, resulting in the deaths of both the pilot and the navigator, who sustained injuries described as incompatible with life. What happened was they got shot out of the cockpit into the roof of a building, and it probably, the top of their head touched their butthole is probably what happened. In case you were wondering how fast it shoots you out of an aircraft. But anyway, I'm immediately reminded of chilling voters. I wonder if he's gonna be wearing his peach medal every day. Italy's Meloni pledges emergency aid to Ukraine in a call with Zelensky. We've been talking about this for a while. Italy is not fucking it up. The Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni spoke by phone on Sunday with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. They spelled his fucking name wrong. Ahead of his planned visits to London, Brussels, and Rome for talks on the peace process. Yeah, I want to continue to point out they made up an award to give to him. You know why they gave Donald Trump the Peace Award? Because he's not getting a fucking Nobel Peace Prize. And it gave the FIFA president the ability to say, hey, can you keep ICE agents away from the fucking World Cup and not spoil this? Economic opportunity for places in your country, you fucking idiot. China's trade surplus tops $1 trillion, defying trade war uncertainties. November outbound shipments increased 5.9%, surpassing forecasts. This is not the United States. So understand, this is after their attempt to diversify their trade. And I want to continue to point this out. The Israel of today is not the Israel from the Bible. The Israel of today was founded in 1948 by David Ben-Gurion, who was then the head of the Jewish Agency. The entire purpose of Israel is to act just like the United States. be imperialist, be expansionist. And also, uh, Benjamin Netanyahu created Hamas. The IDF created Hamas. So when you read articles that say, "Oh, Hamas calling for the destruction of it," you did this to yourself. You fuck. Hamas, the head of Hamas is calling for the destruction of Israel. Great. Yay. Let's just fight forever. You know how fucking corny it is to just be constantly violent? Moron. A lot of countries still don't want to come here. Yeah, no, no, no. So a lot of the media came out and said that 28-point peace plan actually makes more sense if you translate it back into Russian. And then the Kremlin, per Reuters, has come out and said the United States' new security strategy is much in line with what we want to do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Huh. CBC reporting in Canada, they have a legal duty to provide safe water and housing to remote First Nations. A federal judge rules. So I want you to think about the Canadian government ruling on remote Indigenous communities. So, on our journey towards socialism, one of the important things that we need to see with our own eyeballs, there's a Supreme Court ruling that says that the government is required to provide clean water and housing to Indigenous people in Canada, which borders the United States. I I agree. So does the UN and NATO that everyone should have access to housing, hmm and that the government should provide that, hmm if you can't house yourself. The way I was taught the difference between patriotism and nationalism is discernment. So discretion, right? Like as a patriot, I love my country and I'm proud of it, and I will seek to correct her wrongs. And I'm not a nationalist, and I don't think that the United States is better than every other country, and I don't support it no matter what it does, to the point of violence. And that's the difference between a patriot and a nationalist, is that as a patriot, I love my country. It's the best place ever. But fuck this shit. What? We can do better. We deserve better. We're better than this. Whereas a nationalist says, I don't give a fuck what she does. I love and support her no matter what, and if you don't like that, I'll kick your ass. And that shit right there dies in the schoolhouse. Just so everybody knows. Out in the fucking real world, ain't nobody talking like that. Not with all their teeth in their mouth. The fuck? Canadian Armed Forces sees a surge in recruits. They love to see it. People signing the fuck up. Tokyo says a Chinese carrier is conducting intense air operations near its border. Remember, the way these idiots think is if you don't use it, you lose it. And so eventually there's going to have to be conflict. I don't agree. All of this is largely unnecessary. You could end this with a few public hangings. You know what I'm saying? Just drag them out. Guillotine or noose, I give a fuck. We can do it the old fashioned way. And the good news is, if you don't hold them accountable, they'll get all in their fifis, hole up in their bunker, and off themselves with no fucking plan on what to do when they die. And none of us ever see any benefit, right? Because all that money gets taken up. Oh, sorry, this caught me off guard because it's horrible. A Russian airstrike hits a medicines warehouse of a major Ukrainian pharmaceutical distributor. Awesome. Don't worry. They're even installing that shit in children. Hmm. Uh oh. I love seeing shit like this just over and over. All right, so Russian Shadow Fleet, right? They got an oil tanker stuck. Remember, it got attacked. Russia came to get it with a tug, and the tug abandoned it. Yeah, we knew this was happening. Militants from Russia's African Corps committing atrocities in Mali, per the AP, and we've been following this story. Wow. Per Bloomberg, don't worry, it was empty. Saudi Arabia has taken further steps to relax rules around the sale of alcohol by allowing non Muslim foreign residents with monthly earnings of 50,000 rials, rials, which is $13,300 or more to make purchases. Residents must prove their income by showing a salary certificate to gain entry to the country's only liquor outlet, located in Riyadh, said the people, who asked not to be identified because of the sensitivity of the matter. The store opened last year for sales to foreign diplomats and recently extended access to non Muslims with so called premium residency status. I've been talking a lot about extreme weather because fucking climate change is real. 1,000 people died, and 1 million people were displaced because of the floods in Indonesia. The National Disaster Management Agency reported 961 deaths, 234 people missing, and 5,000 people injured. And it's going to continue. The beatings are going to continue. The rain is going to continue to fall. And again, I'm sure that there's part of you, yeah, there's part of you watching this show that's like, why do we start the show talking about world news? Because it's important to have a worldly perspective. There are tons of people out there that are just living their lives all willy nilly and could literally not give a fuck about what is going on outside their door. And I just happen to think that if it happens overseas, it could happen here. And that's why. You observe what's going on in the world and you see how horrific it is in other places. And you think in your mind, like, there's no way that could fucking happen here, and you're wrong. And that's why. And that's why. BBC reporting. Nope. A deadly attack on a kindergarten. Reported in Sudan. A drone attack on a town of Kalogi in Sudan's south is said to have hit a kindergarten and killed 50 people, 33 kids. Rapid Support Forces, the paramilitary group battling the army in Sudan's civil war, was accused of Thursday's attack by a medical organization, the Sudan Doctors Network, and the army. I don't even have kids. It's fucking tough, man. Yep. Somalia's Jubaland withdraws from the federal system, calls itself independent government. Jesus Christ. Here's where it gets fucking. The Hellenic Austrian Insight reporting. The Victorian Parliament has passed highly contentious new laws enabling courts to impose life sentences on young offenders aged 14 and above. In what the Allen government describes as a decisive response to rising violent youth crime. Not great, Bob. You're about to hear some crazy shit from a white boy. I don't believe in the death penalty as a solution. I also don't believe that A life sentence for someone as young as 14 years old is a appropriate response to youth violence. Morale is the key to good order and discipline. If people don't fucking hate their lives, they tend not to be abjectly violent. But if you raise people in a hellish environment, what kind of people do you think you created? Jair Bolsonaro's son says he's going to run for Brazil's presidency in 2026. So I know I said some wild shit. I don't think that life sentences for fucking minors is the answer, and I also don't think the death penalty is an answer. But here's the reality of the situation: rich people are fucking neck deep. I don't know why I was thinking neck skin. They're neck deep invested in the private for-profit prison system. They want to jail their political opponents and have a force of slave labor because because it's either that or they're going to raise the fucking minimum wage and their taxes and they won't make as much money anymore. So we got to jail our political opponents. Science says our brains aren't even fully developed until age 26, right? That's why I believe that it's the government's responsibility to put you in the best possible position that you could be in by the time your brain is fully developed. That's why I think that you need universal health care, education, income, and housing. You don't need to increase your stress burden just to get to 25. You don't need to, I don't think you should create a bunch of fucking debt by getting a bunch of student loans, by, right? Trying to live a life that you can't afford, all that type of shit. I mean, think about that. Your brains aren't fully developed until you've been to college and been a few years into the workforce. You're not a fully, you're still a child. Global cereal production. Supply and demand brief. Global cereal production to exceed the 3 billion mark, stocks to use ratio the highest in decades. So if you wondered what to invest in that is actually consistently making money, cereal. And in case you wondered why cereal production is the highest it's ever been, it's the cheapest food option. That's insane. An African swine fever outbreak. Okay. In Spain may have leaked from a research lab. From the article, The Georgia 2007 virus strain is a reference virus, frequently used in experimental infections and containment facilities to study the virus or to evaluate the efficacy of vaccines, which are currently under development. It's like Raccoon City shit. Resident Evil. Needing honey bunches of oats as you said that, sorry. You can make fun of me. I eat Factor meals, and they just so happen to have like superfood bars. They're like a 2 inch by 2 inch square of like nuts and seeds and shit. That's what and raisins and shit. That's what I ate for breakfast. Bird food. Iranian rights lawyer found dead, sparking allegations of state involvement. Khosrow Alakordi, a 46-year-old prominent lawyer for jailed protesters and a former political prisoner, was found dead under unclear circumstances. Uh, Fellow lawyer Marzieh Mohebi wrote on X that Alakordi died from a blow to the head. This is an example of why I think religion is stupid. There has literally been a genocide in Gaza. The IDF has been restricting the flow of food and aid to the Palestinian people. But they're going to light a Christmas tree in Bethlehem. Jesus Christ. Norway police detain a suspected shooter in an Oslo shopping center. 19-year-old. Called the police before he fired a single shot with a shotgun into a ceiling. Was also carrying a baseball bat and a knife. He was doing all melee run. Huh? Shotgun, baseball bat, knife. Huh? That's an unusual... That's an unusual loadout. What the fuck? Can you imagine if he'd actually gotten away with that shit? A suspected shooter brains 6 people with a baseball bat, stabs several elderly women to death, and shotgunned 24 people. Jesus. I haven't heard the Mariah Carey anthem yet. Mid-air military standoff triggers dueling protests in China-Japan row. Dangerous maritime behavior. Oh, I'm about that life. Okay. Let's see if we can read this fucking article. Um, Tokyo is accusing the Chinese fighter pilots of locking onto them northeast of Taiwan during their during Navy drills. I mean, why not turn it up a little bit? You know what I'm saying? All right, we're about 45 minutes in. Okay, go ahead and share the show. Switch over to like American news. Morning. Have a monumental Monday. Justice's waiting room. A daily podcast discussing news and politics. This is live on Twitch and YouTube. Just sharing the show, kids. Hashtag JWR. And as always, Free Palestine. Slava Ukraine. We'll share it on Blue Sky primarily. That's really the only social media website not called TikTok or YouTube that I use. And I don't even really use that. Okay? Not really on Facebook anymore. And God, those websites are awful. At least Blue Sky doesn't make me want to close the website as soon as I get on it. Somebody said, Deb said, "Oh, I wonder if it's going to be a quiet week." Oh, guess not. All right, so we're off. So something happened over a month ago that I want to use before you get too far into this story. Okay? My chart. All right, so they're thinking about cutting the federal interest rate. Okay? Um, they were supposed to lower the credit requirement, the credit score requirement for people to be able to buy a house. Burp. They were trying to lower it to 600, and that didn't happen. For the record, terrible decision. Terrible decision. 650. Disregard me. I'm just thinking about lending. 650. And an open interest earning account with at least 12 months on time payments before I'm letting you buy a house. For sure. Okay. Um, they reduced it to 625 instead of 650. And that, in my eyes, as someone who studies the math, that's a half measure. And many of the people that could actually afford to buy a house doesn't even touch them. That didn't actually improve the quality of the loan. So I don't anticipate they'll cut the rate. They're reporting here that their rates are currently 3.754%, and they're thinking about cutting them. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm, hey, that's all I'm saying. I don't think that's going to happen. Chinese spy. Man who spent a decade and a half working as a Chinese spy shared details of some of his missions with Radio Canada. When's the last time we had a quiet week? Like a year? Jesus. From the great state of Alabama, they got they snuck in. Yeah, aren't they in the? They're in the college football playoff. And a woman who alleged her priest paid her for sex as young as 17 years old says there's no real winner here after he resigned 16 years later. She's right. Okay, so this is about the nth time I've seen this goddamn article, and apparently this is going to be a big deal. Okay, so that you don't ever catch me under fucking reporting some shit. Apparently, Thailand launching airstrikes on Cambodia after a soldier's killed is a big goddamn deal. So, okay. The government has waived part of a Biden era fine against Southwest Airlines. The U.S. Department of Transportation is waiving part of a fine assessed against Southwest Airlines after the company canceled thousands of flights in a winter storm in 2022. And they're only going to pay about 35 million. Yeah, flood the zone. Yeah, they suck and it's awful. They're losing. Oh. Oh my god, it's ugly. The Java Island Zoo has released photos of the first panda cub born in Indonesia. You're right. For those of you that also follow like F1 racing, Lando Norris won. Um, he got third place. He wins the championship. Max Verstappen actually won the race, but Lando Norris has won the F1 title. And again, I like to point out how much losing and how big of a loser this regime is. A judge has blocked Trump prosecutors from accessing key evidence in the Comey case. Yeah, I like Lando. Yeah, we talked about it off rip, Beck. I said, hey, I went to Purdue. I'm a Miami fan. I would not call myself an Indiana University football fan, but I did grow up an IU fan. I was a basketball player as a kid. I was I was an all-star AAU basketball player. I was a Bobby Knight. I idolized that man. Um, he beat a kid and they fired his ass. And I went to fucking Purdue. That's the story, baby. Like he put his hands on a kid and information came out and he got fucking fired. Despite being a great basketball player. And I went to Purdue. You said anyone but Ohio. Yeah, I feel that. Especially last year when IU played them and got beat up pretty bad, and it's just disappointing, right? Hats off to Kurt Signetti. One thing to point out about Kurt Signetti is that he has won everywhere he's been, and he also is one of Nick Saban's like long lost assistants. So he's part of Nick Saban's coaching tree. Think about how good of a coach he is, and wasn't recommended for the Bama job, and Kalen DeBoer got that job right from Washington. I do think this is a little crazy. It's a little crazy to call something a war crime and then admit that you haven't seen the actual video of it. That seems wild. I don't know if I'm doing that, you know? Because, again, I've seen the videos. But apparently, Tammy Duckworth did not think it was worth it. So, oops. Hey, guess what's really popular with Americans? Fucking Obamacare. That's wild. Beck, I was born in Dayton. So when someone says like anyone but Ohio, and you're like, well, I was born there. Thank God I didn't go to fucking Ohio State or UD. I had a friend for over a decade that was a radio DJ at the University of Dayton while I was in college. So think about how close I was to going. I could have transferred to go to Dayton because I loved the radio. I got, in case you guys haven't figured it out, I got a face for radio. You know what I'm saying? God damn. Admiral Frank Bradley said U.S. intelligence had identified the 11 people on the boat and determined the military was authorized to kill them as part of Trump's campaign against alleged drug smuggling vessels. He said, sorry, Gator fan. Oh my God, Beck, we are mortal enemies. I'm a University of Miami Hurricanes fan for 30 years, Beck. When I was, and of course, Beck and I are enemies because we're adults. Um, when I was growing up, I played football and basketball, and I wrestled and played baseball. Um, uh, in about seventh and eighth grade, I was like a pretty big kid for my grade level, and I played tight end in the 90s. So my idols, Jeremy Shockey, who played for Miami for while he was there. Of course, guys like Travis Kelsey is a tight end. I played tight end as well. Um, but when I was in high school, Miami was hot, and so Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, the fucking Rock, the Rock was a defensive lineman for Miami in the 90s. Um, So just because I was a wrestling fan growing up, so like I was a big fan of The Rock, and he played at Miami. So like I was a Miami fan before I went to Purdue. hmm So I'm glad there's some Florida fans in the chat. The show is for everyone. I hey, I'll read a little slower, okay, guys? Oh, come on, that's funny. Christy Nome is getting sued over that tear gas stunt. And she's trying to impress conservative influencers. I can't maneuver on my browser right now. It's a cool story. Here's an article from ProPublica that's a very difficult read, if I'm just being honest. Okay, I just want to make sure because like when he didn't respond, I'm like I didn't mean to like lose you as a friend. I was just talking helly shit. You know what I'm saying? Florida is where all the rich kids go. Florida and Florida State is where all the you know goes. All the riffraff. I see. You got to understand something. I football fan, Miami fan. I know that Florida's like football is like their thing, um, and there's like a ton of colleges in Florida that are Division I programs. I personally, because I'm a Miami fan, I am required to give the University of Florida and Florida State hell, and then FIU, um, South Florida. Those are our buddies because their best players transfer. But yeah, companies have been trying to get the government to ease restrictions on formaldehyde levels. And the Trump administration is going to more than double the allowed amount of formaldehyde. Is in my fan cry. I'm required to give Florida State and Florida fans hell. The other Florida programs are our buddies. Kids transfer from those programs, so gotta be nice. By the way, I don't know if I haven't said this before, but I don't think the United States, I don't think any government should be using American tax dollars to buy companies. Nowhere have I said that. I'm just throwing this out here. Okay? Because Donald Trump's got the U.S. government like buying shares of Intel. I'm like, we'll buy this company. We'll buy this. Mm-mm. That's not what the government's for. I don't know how CNN is saying that Donald Trump is immune from accountability for these drug boat strikes. I don't believe that. There's a runoff in Miami that apparently we nobody is. Apparently I have to keep us accountable here. Um, Democrats are posting strong early voting turnout in the Miami mayor runoff. So hey, maybe the Miami mayor will be able to stand up to Ron DeSantis, right? This is too funny. ProPublica reporting. You know how Donald Trump tried to have Letitia James indicted for fucking mortgage fraud? ProPublica did the research and says Donald Trump's own mortgages point to mortgage fraud. Oops. Ooh. Ooh. And remember, I don't know if we talk about this enough. Okay? Yeah, the Florida Miami mayor race. Okay? I wanna stop here. I shared this story from Axios about Donald Trump betting his entire party and presidency on AI. That is great fucking news. You gotta understand. I went to Purdue University to study data analytics. I even got offered VRNE, Veterans Vocational Rehab and Education. They even agreed to pay for that and pay me to get a degree in data analytics and become a STEM teacher. And I not only trained AI, trained on AI, learned how to do the work that AI is doing. It's data analytics, it's databasing, it's programming. Uh, Learning how to do those things made me realize, oh, you could never trust anything an AI tells you because there's a person behind it. It's not learning on its own. They're being fed. It affects the quality of the programming, the quality of their responses, the depth that they're able to go on a subject, and how much detail they're able to provide. They're corrupted. They're easily corrupted. Look at Grok. Look at ChatGTP. These things are not reputable. So be careful with your time and your attention and your feelings when it's AI. You are being manipulated. There's a reason whole corporations have gone away from artificial intelligence, and it's because it has a flavor. Yeah. Grok, DeepSeek, ChatGTP, they're corruptible. They only know what they're taught. They're at some point a human is interacting with them and they're picking up their sort of like feng shui. So when you see something outrageous from AI, know that you're just being manipulated. Hmm. And that there are so many people that are going to just fall head over heels for that. You don't have to do that. You can look at what the losers do, right? The loser went all in on AI. Hmm. Don't do it. Hegseth in 2016 repeatedly warned of Trump issuing unlawful military orders. What a fucking crazy time for him, huh? Businesses warn it's only so long before Trump's tariff cost hit U.S. consumers. Corporate executives are telling investors that prices will rise as soon as January. Like saying Charlie Kirk is not dead. Exactly. You are being manipulated. Hey, and I'm reminded of a conversation that happened earlier. I was talking about the article about AI and about how Donald Trump bet it all on AI. You know what I mean? I forgot about this morning. Um, one of the fans of the show, someone who's in our Discord, shared what appeared to be like a conversation with AI, and I just want to point back to how manipulative the language was. Just go back and read the response from what was that, DeepSeek? Look how manipulative the language is. Lack of physical evidence, lack of news reports reporting his death. It's not true. And I'm reminded of 1984 by George Orwell and the quote, reject the evidence of your eyes and your ears. This was their last and most final command, right? So anytime they can get you, and we've watched video, feed after angle of Charlie Kirk's death, and we all saw it with our own eyes. We even heard the shot of the bullet, the sound of the bullet. We saw the blood come out of his neck from multiple angles. Don't reject the evidence of your eyes. You saw what you saw. Tyler Robinson didn't do it. The guy they tried to pin it on, he didn't do it. But stay in reality, okay? Obviously, Donald Trump's trying to fuck with I forgot what it's called. The 14th Amendment. Citizenship. Birthright citizenship. And he's also, they're going to hear a case that could expand his presidential powers. And remember, I don't think that the government really should be doing much about the merger between Warner Brothers and Netflix. I don't I don't. Let's ask a question. Does Netflix currently host Warner Brothers content? Friends, Harry Potter, DC Universe, Game of Thrones. So that's why. Yeah, Netflix bought Friends and what was it? Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and Friends. They're planning for the end of the world. All right. Corey Bush and Kat Abigazeta being covered by The Nation. By the way, this came out yesterday, and this is how I know it's going to be a good day, Tater. Marjorie Taylor Greene said Republicans make fun of Donald Trump behind his back, and if that's what I came here to find out, actually, I needed to know how do Donald Trump's how do the people how do the people that Donald Trump hires feel about him? Here's your answer. They talk shit about him behind his back. Fucking A right. Apparently, she revealed her political plans, accuses Trump of directly fueling death threats against her son by calling her a traitor. Here's the New York Times reporting Congress is gearing up to pass a $900 billion defense policy bill. Cut that in half. That's the fully funded U.S. military. Put the other half in universal health care, education, income, and housing. You could you could end homelessness for a quarter of that. Jesus. Of course, Russia loves Donald Trump's new U.S. national security strategy. Trump endorsed Kentucky Republican running against Thomas Massie. He's Donald Trump's hand-picked choice to run against Thomas Massie, a former Navy SEAL, fifth generation farmer. By the way, I think my favorite thing, yeah, we could have just forgiven student loans. Yeah. My favorite thing, Donald Trump pardoned Queller, right? Or Kueller, the Democrat. and expected him to become a Republican, and is like upset that he didn't just change his party affiliation because you got him out of Hawk. Millennials, obviously, hopefully not a big fan. Millennials are the largest voting group and have the least representation. This is a problem. It tells me why I need to run for public office. We're the largest demographic of voters, and we have the least representation. 37%, 33% approve of Trump, 61% disapprove. But yeah, here from Axios. He thought he was going to change his party. He said Quiller's basically a Republican. Yeah, and he like he thought that freeing him was going to get him to just change. Trump plans to shatter the bureaucracy, have a green light at the Supreme Court. Oh, so do I. I think the way they present the numbers are because it's confusing enough to Donald Trump that he doesn't understand. The way they present the numbers, he could not tell you. He cannot read what is being reported about his approval rating and tell you, are you doing good or not? He couldn't tell you. He does not know. He's not smart enough. I just read the article and was like, you kind of got to be able to read and infer. You think he's up on that? Okay. Trump militarized cities in ICE crackdowns and wants to know, is militarizing the ballot box next? Keep in mind, an article came out before Donald Trump got that made up award from FIFA that if you wanted Donald Trump not to be hostile toward you, you got to give him something. Give him a trinket. Give him something to keep him busy. You got to placate him. You must make him the center of attention. Burp. And if you don't, you got to reassure him with memes on his hands and kanks. He understands that, yeah. Trump approves a golden fleet of new ships and drone boats. This sounds like something that happens at a Starbucks. Pam Bondi's a fucking idiot. Yeah, a golden fleet, but we can't afford food. Bondi orders an FBI extremism intelligence review with an Antifa focus. The fuck? From Bloomberg. So I would just like to ask, as someone who is anti-fascist, what about fascism do you like? I'm going to read its definition to you, and you tell me which part of that shit you support. Fascism is a far right authoritarian political ideology emphasizing extreme nationalism. Remember, we just talked about how there's a difference between being patriotic and a nationalist. Remember, a patriot says, I love this country and I will fix her. And a nationalist says, nah, fam, she's perfect in every way. You love her no matter what. And if you don't agree with that, I'll fist fight you. So obviously, extreme nationalism's a fucking no-no. A strong centralized state, I'm for decentralizing. Dictatorial power, what's good about a dictator? Suppressing opposition through violence and propaganda? Well, that doesn't seem great either. Prioritizing the nation or the race of the individual? Well, that's as we've discovered before, racism ain't great, Jack. And often featuring militarism and traditional values that focus on national rebirth and purity. Key examples would be Mussolini's Italy and Hitler's Germany. And now the US President Donald J. Trump. I'm anti fascist in just about all of those ways, right? I'm for free speech. I don't think that the president is a monolith. I don't think that has the power of the purse. I don't think that he should be overstepping. I don't think he should be firing people and laying them off and cutting food aid and killing hundreds of thousands of people. But one of the things you got to remember is he also is responsible for the death of like 750,000 people due to his poor response to COVID. The people voted for this, and it largely impacted the people that voted for it. And this is just how that works sometimes. Hmm? So understand that when I tell you that socialism is, there are some tenets of socialism that it's like, how are you against this? Like, I'm pro equality, right? I, that means that I'm not okay with bigotry at all. I don't have friends that are racist or sexist or homophobic or transphobic. I'm not about that life. What's wrong with that? And then I think everyone ought to have universal health care, education, income, and housing. And then because we live in the modern era, I know that people have these big questions about overthrowing the means of production. Jared, what does that mean? How do we get socialism with a capitalistic society? Unions. Join a union. Get union jobs. Become a union like steward. We need elected officials that are in a union. I'm in two unions. I'm in Working America and the Military Veterans Council. And I want other people to do that because the world over, the way they have balance in politics is they have a socialist party and heavy union representation. And in the United States, over the last 7 decades, union membership has waned. And think about the rise of corporate power. So if you have to wonder, am I a fascist or a socialist? Man, that sucks for you. I never had to wonder if I was a fascist or a socialist. Yeah, that's what people tell me. Oh, I gotta call someone I trust. Let me go watch Fox News for a minute and see if this is what I want to do. And we don't say it often enough. Um, the stock market is not a good indicator of the economy and should not be observed as such. Strong G3 geomagnetic storm likely Tuesday. Power grids, GPS at risk. Hmm. There's a winter storm warning in Virginia. There has been a 5.8 uh, Richter earthquake in Alaska. A historic atmospheric river slams the Pacific Northwest. Major flooding, landslides likely. God bless America. What? In Bangor, Maine, 9:20, 3 minutes ago, there was a earthquake in Bangor, Maine, 5.5 magnitude. I hear I am the most evil. I am an empath. Yeah. I want to continue. I want to make sure I point this out. Dina brought it up. Empathy is your ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes for a moment and just feel for a moment what they're going through or have been through, and just saying, "Oh, I understand how that feels," even for just a moment. I want to continue to remind people that when you're empathetic, that does not mean that you have to get down in the muck with them. You can just say, I'm so sorry that that happened. I understand how you feel. And move the fuck on. That's being empathetic. That's it. That's all that is just saying, damn, that sucks, man. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's it. That's what being an empath is. Is genuinely giving a shit about the human condition and not just your own. All right, here we go. Sorry, I was just kind of dicking around until the whole map of the country came alive. All right. Flood watch in Oregon and Washington as potentially historic atmospheric river hits. If you live in Washington and Oregon, there's blue and green. This is rain and snow. Moving into Idaho and Montana and Wyoming. Okay? In the Dakotas. And then really there's a snowstorm. Minnesota, Wisconsin, East Iowa, northern Illinois. Okay, and obviously you got to think if you're east of that, so that's Michigan, northern Indiana, northern Ohio. You're like in the line of sight, and then there's a massive storm. There's really two massive storms. One on the west coast, the northwest corner of the country, and then one uh, eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, the Carolinas, Virginia. Massive fucking snowstorm. And again, down in North Carolina, it looks like rain. So I would be concerned along the border of North Carolina and Virginia of the dangerous shit. The rain snow mix. This is where roads flood and freeze, and that's a whole nightmare ass scenario. There's also some moisture down in the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, so hey, have a great Monday. Okay, have a great Monday. I appreciate you all. Stay safe out there.